Hi, my name is Rachel. I've really enjoyed being in this class with all of you guys. Let's see, a couple of things that have really resonated with me and that I really enjoyed throughout this course. One of the first things was the article that we read on the idea of being and becoming. I actually really got a lot of insight from that, and I feel like it's changed my perspective a little bit on the way that I teach and the way that I view my students. The next was the Boston Marathon video that we watched. I really gained a lot of insight into that and how to keep kids interested in something, and I was super impressed that throughout the course of the video they were not only able to get the kids so interested and involved with the idea of the Boston Marathon, but that they were able to keep the kids' interest for such a long period of time. And I actually I found that to be very inspirational and very useful in that trying to look at ways to keep kids interested in things longer. For instance, rhythm is something that we teach the children, every single year throughout the entire year, building upon that knowledge and trying to come up with ways to make it more interesting and not boring. Trying to incorporate instruments more and more games that involve rhythm type things, but just in general, how can I make some of the concepts that I need to spend a little bit more time on, how do I make them more interesting, and keep the kids' interest? Because obviously they learn more when they're interested in what it is that they're learning. But I gained a lot of things from watching that video. I really liked that. The idea of allowing time for audiation when you're doing an echo singing type approach with children. I definitely am the kind of person where I sing something and then they immediately echo me. I try to keep the pace moving and keep things going, and so I feel like that's just automatically why I do that. I like the idea of allowing them time to think through the material and not necessarily the amount of time that the material is. So for an example, if I sing them something that is 8 beats long, that I don't have to allow them 8 beats of silence before then echoing back what I said to them. It's not necessarily. I always approached audiation in that they're actually singing through the entire thing in their head in time. So if I wanted them to audiate something, they would sing it in their head more or less. Whereas this kind of had a different approach, something that I hadn't necessarily thought of, and I did start to use that and incorporate that in my lessons already, and I actually have noticed a difference that the children are learning the songs a little bit faster. They're not making as many mistakes with the melody or the rhythm, and it's interesting because I feel like it was a very small change that has actually made a really big difference. So that was something that I really got that I've been applying. I forget which week it was, but when we talked about all of the different singing voices that the children have and how they move from one level of a singing voice to the next. I don't know that level's the right word, but how they move from one singing voice to the next and how they improve and get to be a master singer. First of all, I really liked the breakdown in that and to see the different levels and to think about the children that I have. Most of them are right around the same level. Like I said in the first discussion video, I teach grades kindergarten, first, and second grade. And so a lot of them are right around the same area. I do have some children that just don't use their singing voice. Or what I would have thought before this class is I would have said they don't use their singing voice, which actually is not entirely true because they do sustain a tone. They just don't they sustain a tone in the pitches where their speaking voice lies. And so doing the reading that involved all around the singing voice, it was really very helpful to try and approach it in a different way of how do I get these kids to not how do I get them to use their singing voice, because actually they are using their singing voice, but how do I get them to use their singing voice higher, and how do I get them to hear the pitches and hear the difference, and how do I get them out of their comfort zone and get them to sing a little bit higher. It is a lot of times boys, but not always boys, and not all boys. It's just a very small group of them. But all of the reading about the singing voice and the children's singing voice, I really found that to be very helpful, and I've started utilizing that in my lessons. And then lastly, I really enjoyed observing someone else doing a little kid lesson. The one that I observed was with 3 and 4-year-olds, and it was a very small group. It was only 5 children. But watching the teacher work with those children, it was just really quite amazing to see the things that teacher does that I do that's similar with the slightly older kids, and the things that he did that was very different, and some things that I can maybe utilize in my lessons. I thought it was very interesting, and I enjoyed watching it, and I learned a lot from it. So in conclusion, I really enjoyed this class. I learned a lot from this class, and I am really excited that I was able to utilize the information from this class and start using it in my lessons the same week that I learned it. I thought that was really cool. Sometimes I feel like in some of the technology courses, it's stuff that I might be using down the road, or now that I'm working with the younger children, stuff that I have to kind of save in the back of my head for when I start working with the older ones again. But this was really helpful, specifically because this is the first year where I've taught kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, and so the timing of this class was quite perfect. I really enjoyed being able to utilize all of the things that we've learned in this class and utilize them in my classroom immediately. I hope that you guys have a good summer and enjoy whatever classes you might be taking this summer, and I will see you all around.